We were just finishing up at that event. It was probably around 9 o'clock. My phone started going, of course, started buzzing, as it always does, Brian.
Yeah.
But just to hear the activity, that parts of Harbour Grace were on lockdown based on the advisory put out by the RCMP. Certain roads were blocked. I guess they were warning and asking residents to stay in and to lock their doors. So, I mean, we don't hear, this doesn't happen. These sorts of things don't happen around here. We think they don't happen in Newfoundland and Labrador, but we're seeing this now across the province that crime rates are changing. I mean, we know that there are substance available to our youth, even available to people of all walks of life, drugs, Brian, that have never been, that I didn't see in my time growing up here. So, I mean, we know it's out there. We know it's happening. We have to be careful. But it was quite alarming. I mean, in hearing, the fear of people calling me and even talking with other community leaders here in my district. And so ultimately, we have to do more. And even talking to RCMP. I mean, I live in a neighborhood, and I have there's 4 or 5 neighbors that are all RCMP officers here, where I live here in Bay Roberts. And I mean, I'm constantly talking to them about what they're saying, and getting feedback even from them about what they feel that they would need to be able to do the job better. But even in conversation with the Premier, we know that we do want more policing.
What do they say they need more? When you say you ask them what do they need, and what do they say?
Well, they say ultimately resources for policing, but recruitment is down. So, and again, I'm aware, I've reached out to my colleague and asked, could I even meet with him with the Transformational Committee, and what they're seeing and what because they report regularly, of course, to the Minister. So I'd certainly like to be on that conversation if I could, based on what's happening in my area, in our region here in Conception Bay North.
And you mentioned, drugs that, people aren't seeing, but we have RCMP officers and the Chief Medical Examiner talking about drugs they haven't seen. That's what blows my mind. When they're openly saying these are, we're shocked by this, we're surprised by it, when they don't already see it coming, that's even more concerning. You mentioned as well too, the mental addiction, the mental health, and that sort of thing. The separation of them, I think right now that portfolio falls under John Abbott, I believe. I think he's housing mental health and addictions. And if that's not a load on his plate, I don't know what is.
Well, even Brian, even just the need. I mean, the Premier has created a standalone committee, portfolio for mental health and addiction. So that in itself speaks volumes. So, certainly as government and the conversations that I'm having with my colleagues, we are certainly committed as a government to doing everything that we can to support people in law enforcement, people in all first responders, because as we know, I mean, the needs are changing as society, moves forward. And I mean, we're seeing this not just here in Newfoundland and Labrador, but across Canada and ultimately across the world.
You mentioned too, Pam, that recruitment is down, and we know that there have been big recruitment drives. They've gone the RCMP over the summer. I mean, they've invited the media down for several of the trainings, the training sessions or the introduction, the orientations, and the push is on. They had some clever social media campaigns this summer as well. And when you ask them why the recruitment is down, I mean, the first question I wonder is about just the taxing mental health nature of it. I mean, you have to be strong of mind to take on, because the things that you see as an officer, I mean, it's bad enough if one of us run into an accident by accident on the highway and, you're actually forced to help or deal with something, and that never leaves you. And I can only imagine. I mean, they're still human, but...
You're right. Yeah, you're right. And I mean, hats off to the people, the men and women who do this work, because not everybody, it's not for the faint of heart. You mentioned your position here on Openline is not for the faint of heart. But, absolutely, like you just said, what they must see, what they have to respond to. I mean, hats off to them, and I hope that each and every officer and first responder are receiving the supports, to follow up once they attend these scenes and attend, to these certain incidents, that they are getting the support that they need, of course, to take care of their mental health. Because I tell you, I mean, hats off to them. It's certainly a profession that not everybody can do. So I have the greatest respect for the work that they do. And again, anything that we can do, and I'm at that table, and we're committed to doing what we can to make sure they have the resources to do their job safely and ultimately protect Newfoundlanders and Labradorians.
Pam Parsons, the MHA for Harbour Grace Portagrave and the Minister responsible for Women and Gender Equality. We'll be keeping an eye, obviously, Pam. Let's hope that there's less news out that way for that kind of reason. But listen, we should also note they did make arrests here, and there's a news conference coming up, so the work's being done. Not easy as it is. Thanks for the call.
Absolutely. Thank you, and stay safe, everyone, and take good care.
You too. Thanks, Pam.